Hello my friends, and welcome to A Common Touch of Fantasy. My name is Paul, and we're doing a review today. We're doing The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. And this is going to be a different type of review because the Mistborn trilogy has been covered quite a bit on BookTube. I am going to talk more about the process of which Brandon Sanderson writes books and how that creates a book like The Hero of Ages. First off, I gave this book a 5 out of 5. For plot, I gave it a 5. For characters, I gave it a 4. For world building and setting, I gave it a 5. For writing style, I gave it a 5. And for heart and mind aspect, I gave it a 3. For a total score of 22 out of 25. Not bad. This is the third book in the Mistborn trilogy, and I don't really want to give away a whole lot. But suffice to say, the end of the world is coming. The ash mounts, which are volcanoes, are spewing ash at a constant rate that is more than any other time. Earthquakes are happening. The mists are now during the night and the day, so it is blocking the sun. So the food is running short, and the end is at night. Vin and Elend are trying to find these caches of supplies that the Lord Ruler has hidden in many different cities. The Lord Ruler created these caches for just this moment when the world is about to end. And each of these caches are food, there are supplies, and there's also information about the Mistborn abilities and also what is happening to the world. Sazed, along with Breeze, are now meeting up with Spook. Spook was an Allomancer that wasn't very powerful and he was very unconfident. But now Spook is way different for some reason. He is very confident and his abilities are more pronounced. And there's a lot of mystery involved with that. Also, Tensoon, the Kandra, has been thrown into prison because of what he did during the Well of Ascension. And he finds out that the Kandra know more about what is happening to the world than anybody else. So this book, The Hero of Ages, is a book all about finding answers for these characters, trying to figure out how to save the world. And it's also a book of answers for the reader, as during the Mistborn trilogy, we've had so many questions about what's going on in the world that are finally answered in The Hero of Ages. So I really enjoyed this book. Hero of Ages fixed a lot of the issues that I had with Well of Ascension. I gave Well of Ascension a 3. And I gave this a 5, and the first Mistborn novel I gave a 5 as well. This one felt more like a direct sequel to the first book. A lot of the issues I had with the second book, like the relationship from Vin and Elend, took a back seat to the world, to the plot, and to what is going on. In the second book, there wasn't many changes in viewpoint, and I got tired of having the viewpoints from Vin and Elend all the time. But in this book, the viewpoint changes quite often, and also the city and area that these characters are in change often as well. Whereas the previous two books mostly focus in New Citadel, this one has a multiple of different cities. The side characters in The Hero of Ages have a larger part to play, and I'm very happy about that because the side characters are my favorite characters in this book. Alright, so what I mostly want to talk about during this review is Sanderson's writing technique. And Sanderson's writing technique is creating exceedingly detailed outlines before he starts writing the actual book. Sanderson, in his early career, wrote a lot of books that were aimed toward what readers wanted to read during that time. He mainly wrote what the market really wanted him to write, and he found a limited success. He just didn't really care for his books that much, and he felt like he was progressively getting worse. That changed when he decided, I'm going to write the book I want to write the way I want to write it. And so he wrote The Way of Kings, which is the first book in the Stormlight Archive. So when Sanderson wrote The Way of Kings, he created an outline that was 180,000 words, which was more words than any of the other books that he has written before that. And then the book itself ended up becoming 300,000 words. But something changed at that moment, and he decided, yeah, this is the way I like to write books. This very detailed outline creates a very detailed book for me. At that moment, he wasn't actually published. Elantris wasn't out yet. And so The Way of Kings was too ambitious for a new author, so he put it on the back burner and waited until many years later when he was an established author to then publish it. But the way that he created The Way of Kings transferred over to Mistborn. The Mistborn trilogy was a hodgepodge of ideas that he had from a previous trilogy that he wrote. He called that Mistborn as well, but it was odd. He didn't like it. There are a lot of things that he thought were really bad about it. So he took all the good things from that previous series that he wrote and put it in this new series. So what Brandon Sanderson likes to do is he likes to put plot, characters, and setting on his outline. And then he'll start throwing in ideas of things that he finds interesting from a brainstorming session that he had maybe a week ago, a month ago, a year ago, 5 years ago. He has a lot of things that he's written down that he finds very interesting and things that he wants to add in books. So he just starts throwing stuff that he's thought of into these sections. So for example, he has mist that you can barely see through. So for example, he was riding in his car one night and he was going 70 miles per hour and it was really foggy, and he said, wow, this would be a really cool idea to put in a book. So that cool idea he put into Mistborn, he put it under setting. And then other things like the allomancy he threw under the world and the magic. And then he developed hermalurgy. And then the fearochemicalancy he had from a separate idea. So he combined 3 separate ideas into one big idea and put that under a world. And then he put under a plot, a group of thieves trying to overtake the world ruler. And then he'll start plugging characters in there. And he'll keep making points under all these things. And then the important part is that he references each of these points back to what it's talking about. So for example, if he's talking about the mist and how it impacts a specific character, underneath that character, he'll write the mist actually impact this character in this way. And then under the mist, he'll put this character is impacted by the mist in this way, so that each point is referenced to another point so that it all ties together. And then Sanderson will rework the plot and the story to connect all these different things. So once he has all these different things, this world created in his outline, he then tries to figure out what he wants to withhold from the reader while the reader is reading the book. This is extremely important because if you create the entire backstory for a trilogy or a series before you write the series, then you can drop hints and different little sprinkling of details about the different things that you're trying to withhold from the reader, so that when you reveal the big truth about the questions that the reader has, it becomes this monumental scene. So like at the beginning, instead of saying, okay, allomancy has these metals and these metals do these things, Sanderson says, okay, let's withhold a couple of the metals from the reader and make them mysterious, and then later on in the book, I'll go ahead and reveal what these metals do and that they find these new metals to make it more interesting and to create more questions in this world. And this is what Sanderson's really good about doing, withholding answers from the reader. The reader has a bunch of questions. And his works, especially the Mistborn trilogy, and in particular, The Hero of Ages, is all about having questions being answered. In this book, the mood has been shifted completely from the previous books. As questions start to be answered in The Hero of Ages, it completely changes the mood of this book to tell the reader that there is a climax coming, that there is an endpoint, and that the pacing of the story ends up speeding up because the reader wants to know the answers by the questions from the previous books. And that that right there creates an amazing mood and tone to this entire trilogy, because he creates all of these specific details before he starts writing. So he knows exactly how much he can put in to tease the reader, and knows exactly when to create the reveal, the answer, to have the best dramatic impact to the reader. And that is why The Hero of Ages is a good book. This type of writing is the architect style of writing. Building an outline, building a map of the story before writing the story. The opposite of this is the gardener writing technique. The gardener will create a character or one theme or one plot point and create an entire story based off of that. A very popular gardener author is Stephen King. He creates an amazing character first and then allows the character to then tell the story that he believes the character wants to tell. This creates amazing characters in King's writing because the characters are fleshed out so much more clearly than sometimes an architect writer can do, because the writer is actually looking into the soul of the character to drive the story forward and to know where the story is going. And that is the weakness of the Mistborn trilogy and The Hero of Ages, because Sanderson focuses so much on the architecture, the world, the magic, the plot, that the characters are just things that he plugs in like everything else. And because of that, the characters aren't extremely intimate to the reader, and even though they're fine, they're not as good as some authors, and at times we don't care about the characters in this book as much as maybe other books. So that is all why this book is as good as it is, and this trilogy is as good as it is, because of the way Sanderson creates his stories. So I am extremely happy that I finally finished the Mistborn trilogy. It is as good as I thought it was going to be. The second book wasn't amazing, but I still liked it. I do think that people like Sanderson maybe a little too much. There might be a little bit too much hype. You know, around book 2, his last name has been said so many times, and how much they like Sanderson. I love Sanderson. Sanderson's writing. Sanderson's this. Sanderson's that. And honestly, it does get a little bit much at times, but he is an amazing writer, and I'm happy that people are reading him. I'm happy that I'm finally reading him as well, and hopefully that his books will last for many generations. Make sure you check out my written review below. Also, there are a few links to some of the information where I've gotten this information that I've told you about. Check those out, read those, watch those. It's very interesting. I absolutely love watching Sanderson's lectures on writing and listening to his podcast, Writing Excuses, so check those out as well. Thank you for watching this review, and I hope you liked this. It was a little bit different. I was trying to be more informative and try to really tell people why I really like this series, and it's all because of how he writes his books and how he starts and how he outlines his books. That is the main reason why his books are as popular as they are. Thanks for watching.